The war room of the Varnak Empire glowed with deep blue light. Cold metal walls echoed with the whispers of strategy. Dozens of alien commanders stood tall, their long arms crossed, sharp eyes fixed on the screen in the center. It showed a battlefield, simulation one they had trained for over 1,000 years. Today was special. They were going to test their ultimate war strategy against a human, not a general, not a soldier, just a random one, a weak, Earth-born creature. "This will take minutes," one commander said, smirking. "Let's see what Earth calls strategy." They brought the human into the room. His name was Jake Carter. He wore jeans, a hoodie, and old sneakers. His hair was messy, and he looked more confused than scared. Jake looked around the war room. "So is this like escape room night? Or more?" Of a board game vibe, the Varnak general stepped forward. "You will face our simulation, the same one that defeated 23 alien races. You may command your side. If you survive 20 minutes, you win." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Cool. Do I get dice or just imagination?" The aliens blinked. "Dice." Jake walked up to the simulation table. He looked at the 3D map of hills, enemy troops, and defense lines. His face lit up with excitement. "Oh man," he whispered. "This is like D&D. In real time, this is going to be fun." The aliens watched as Jake smiled to himself and began placing virtual units. He moved them in strange paths, ignoring high ground, breaking common battle formations. One alien whispered, "What is he doing? That makes no sense." But 5 minutes in, Jake's troops flanked the enemy army from behind. 10 minutes later, the enemy tanks were caught in a trap made of nothing but fake signals. 15 minutes in, the simulation gave a warning. "Opponent near victory." The Varnak general shouted, "Pause the simulation. This is not possible." Jake leaned back and crossed his arms. "This is great. When's the next round? I got plenty of ideas." The aliens stared at the screen. The simulation was ruined. The unbeatable test had been beaten by a human who acted like he was playing a game. That night they watched videos of Earth's war records. Jake hadn't been in the military. He worked in a bookstore and played tabletop games on weekends. His only weapon was imagination. Still, they decided to run a second test. This time, they added more enemy forces. Twice the difficulty, advanced drone swarms, a time limit. They thought he'd panic. Jake stepped in, yawning. "Long night, hope this round is spicy." The battle began. Jake told his side's virtual troops to hide, wait, and use silence. Then he built fake camps with empty vehicles to confuse the enemy. He whispered to himself, "This is like the part in my campaign where the orcs thought the treasure was real." The enemy drones flew in the wrong direction. The real army hit from the side like thunder. The simulation crashed again. One alien asked, "Is he cheating?" Another replied, "No, he's just unpredictable." Jake stretched. "You guys ever play with house rules? Really opens things up." The Varnak leaders gathered in secret. "This human," one said, "is dangerous. His mind works in ways we don't understand." "Earth may be full of minds like his," another warned. They tested Jake again, harder every time. Sandstorms, nighttime battles, enemy spies. Jake called it hard mode. Still, he won. Every single time, then Jake did something strange. He began to teach the alien troops in his simulation. He gave them names. He told stories about their families. He said things like, "You're not just pieces on a board. Your heroes act like it." The alien commanders watching the feed were disturbed. He is creating emotion. That's not part of war, but it worked. His troops fought harder, survived longer, started winning fights they should have lost. The Varnak Empire began to crack. One commander burst into the chamber. "He's rewriting the way our AI learns. He's teaching them imagination." Another screamed, "He must be stopped. This is not war, it's madness." But the High General raised a hand. "No, this is power, and power must be understood." They invited Jake to speak before the council. He walked in, still eating a granola bar. "Nice place. Bit dramatic. Though, you guys ever try Casual Fridays?" the head counselor asked. "Are there more like you on Earth?" Jake smiled. "Millions. Most are better than me. I just play once a week." The room went silent. The counselor leaned forward. "How do you think like this? How do you win?" Jake shrugged. "Easy. I don't play to win. I play to make the story interesting. Winning just happens when you have fun. You do not fight to conquer. Nope. I fight to make it memorable. The council went into panic. If Earth had more like him, war would never be the same. We must prepare for invasion. But another said, no. We must prepare for lessons. In secret, the Varnock tried to test Earth's response. They sent a scout drone. It flew near a human school. It was taken down by a group of kids playing a war game on their tablets. They didn't even know the drone was real. They thought it was part of the simulation. Back in the war room, Jake was watching a replay of their failure. He laughed. Oh wow, that's Claire. She's 13. Pretty sure she still thinks elves are real. The aliens stared at him in horror. Jake leaned in. You're not fighting soldiers, you're fighting players. That night, the Varnock war room was silent. Not a single screen blinked. No training ran. No battle cries sounded. The High General stood alone, staring at the empty battlefield. Behind him, Jake walked in, holding a notebook. Want to see how this ends? Jake asked. The general didn't speak. Jake opened the book and wrote one line. The war ended when the players refused to play their part. He closed the notebook and said, You guys built your whole empire on strategy, but we build ours on imagination. And that is always stronger. The general lowered his head. Jake turned to leave. Tell your soldiers, good game. And with that, the human who saw war as a game night walked away, leaving behind a galaxy that had no defense against fun. Jake Carter sat in a cold metal room with no windows, only blinking lights and tall shadows watching from behind a glass wall. The Varnock scientists were observing him again. He had no idea how many days had passed since his first battle simulation. Maybe 5, maybe 20. They gave him something new, a thin stylus and a digital map. No rules, just the map and the words. Solve this. Jake smiled. Finally, a sandbox mode. He leaned forward and began drawing. The aliens behind the glass watched every move. Jake didn't create battle lines or standard defenses. Instead, he drew a small village with names next to each building. One said Rin's Farm. Another said Old Bridge, haunted. He even added tiny trees and fake fog. Is this a joke? One alien asked. No, another replied. This is different. Jake whispered as he worked. Okay, so this is where the enemy will arrive. But there's a legend about the ghost of the canyon. That'll scare them. No drones, no traps. Only a story. But when they ran the simulation, something strange happened. The enemy, AI, didn't attack as expected. It hesitated, confused by signals, drawn to false heat spots, distracted by moving lights and echo sounds. Jake's forces hidden in tunnels sprang up and took the enemy down one by one. Victory again. That one was inspired by Halloween at my uncle's place. Later that day, a Varnock named Seren approached him. Unlike the others, Seren was younger. He asked quietly, What are you doing, human? Jake looked up, creating worlds. Why? Seren tilted his head. You act like this is not real war. Jake blinked. It's not. You gave me a puzzle, so I solved it with a story. Story is not strategy, Seren said. Jake smiled. No. Then why did your AI believe it? Seren didn't answer. Only if you stop thinking like a machine. Together, they created another scenario. This time, they built a city full of shadows and riddles. Each street was named after ancient Earth myths. The enemy failed to move past the gates. They got lost trying to figure out what was real and what was fake. Seren was stunned. They stopped moving. Jake nodded. They were trying to understand the meaning. That's the trick. You don't beat someone by being stronger. You beat them by being stranger. Behind the walls, the council watched with unease. A human. By the end of the week, Jake had a team of 5 Varnock strategists, all working. Under him, he called them his party. You're the rogue, he told Seren. You go silent and sneak around enemy data. You, he pointed at another, are the bard. Use sound to confuse the battlefield. And you, definitely, the tank. Big shield, no brain. The aliens didn't fully understand the roles, but they followed his commands. And every mission You are turning war into nonsense. Jake stood calmly. No, I'm turning it into art. Art does not kill. Jake's smile faded. Exactly. Maybe that's the point. The commander slammed his hand on the console. You will now face the grand simulation. No tricks, no stories. Real war. If you fail, we erase your record. Jake shrugged. Okay, one last game then. The chamber darkened. The grand simulation loaded. It was a full-scale planetary battle, 10 enemy divisions. Advanced AI, zero room for tricks. Jake didn't move for 2 minutes. The aliens grew confused. Is he giving up? One whispered. Jake stood up and walked to the center of the room. Then he spoke one sentence. This is not a battle. It's a test of fear. He activated voice modules in the simulation. His trust no shadow. Why did you come here? He changed the terrain colors, added strange symbols on the ground, and programmed nightfall to arrive early. Within minutes, the enemy AI began malfunctioning. Some units froze. Others fired at shadows. Many simply turned back. The Varnak stared in disbelief. He had defeated the largest simulation. With fear, impossible, the commander whispered. Jake sat back down. That one was based on a horror. Campaign I ran last Halloween had a ghost knight with glowing eyes. Scared my whole group. This was easier. Later, when the council reviewed the footage, one elder said, he doesn't see war like we do. Another replied, no, he sees it like a dream. Jake walked out of the chamber alone. In his hand was a pencil. Just a pencil, a guard asked. Why do you carry that thing? Jake smiled. Because, with it, I can build empires and destroy them. By now, news had spread across the Varnak systems. The human who beat every simulation. But with imagination, leaders from other alien races began to take interest. Some wanted to study him. Others wanted to kill him, but many wanted to learn from him. One night, Saren approached Jake in private. There's a group, he whispered. Young tacticians, they don't want war anymore. They want to build something new. They want you to lead it. Jake shook his head. I'm not a general. You are more than that, Saren said. You are a storyteller. Jake looked out the window toward a sky full of stars. Maybe one day, he said. But for now, I think I just want to roll some dice. Saren smiled. What does that mean? Jake grinned. It means it's game night, and in a galaxy, ruled by war, fear, everything dot, not with force, not with weapons, but with imagination. The Varnak war chamber was silent, darker than usual. Screens showed repeated footage of Jake Carter's battles. His victories looked more like stage plays than military operations. They couldn't understand it. They had trained for generations. War was science. This must stop. He is making fools of us. Another answered. Or maybe we are seeing the truth for the first time. Jake sat in his small quarters, legs up on the table, flipping a coin and humming to himself. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't scared. He was bored. The door hissed open. Jake, it's happening. Jake looked at him. Another test. They want to see if your games still work in reality. Testing weapons and machines. But this time, it was different. Massive creatures with armor built into their skin. No patience, no mercy. They believed humans were weak. Jake was nothing more than a joke to them. When Jake landed, the Brannick commander greeted him with a sneer. You are the human who plays. With pencils? Jake nodded. Yup. Got a problem with that? He was given a small team of Varnak cadets, young, unsure and scared. They had read about his simulations. They didn't believe it would work in the real world. Jake looked at the dusty terrain. All right, let's begin. No weapons. One cadet asked. Jake shook his head. Nope, just these. We don't need to fight. The battle started at dawn. The Brannick rushed in fast. Lights hidden in bushes. The Brannick paused. Something felt. The Brannick commander growled. What is this? His. Soldiers stepped forward. Suddenly, the ground under them shifted. A false cave entrance opened, not a trap. Then more sounds came, drums, whispers, strange symbols glowing on the walls. The Brannick began to hesitate. Their scanners failed. The data didn't make sense. Where is the enemy? They couldn't see, couldn't hear, and then they saw a message burned into the rocks. You're not losing a fight. You're losing a story. The Brannick pulled back. Watching from above, the Varnak generals were speechless. One muttered, He's making them fight themselves. In the middle of the battlefield, the Brannock commander ordered a full retreat. His army couldn't focus. They were warriors, but Jake had turned the battlefield into a stage of illusions. The commander sent a message to Jake directly. "Face me, no tricks, no fog." The commander arrived, snarling, "Enough games, human." The Brannock raised his weapon. Jake didn't flinch. Roll initiative. Down. His gun was jammed, filled with sand. Jake tapped his earpiece. They had sabotaged the weapons with nothing but dust and water. The commander fell to his knees. Jake walked over and offered his hand. "Mercy is part of the ending you wanted." The Brannock looked up, breathing heavy. "How did you do this?" Jake shrugged. "You trained for centuries. I played for weekends. I think I had more fun." The battle was over. The Brannock were defeated. No death, no blood, just confusion, tricks, and imagination. The Varnock Council watched the footage for hours. "He defeated a real army," one said with illusions. Another added, "No," the elder replied, with understanding. "He knows minds. We only knew war." That night, Jake returned to the warship. Saran waited for him, holding a message. "What's that?" Jake asked. Saran handed it over. An offer. From 10 other alien species. "They want you to teach." Jake raised an eyebrow. "Teach what?" "Whatever it is you did down there," Jake smiled. "I didn't do anything special. I just told a better story." Saran nodded. And everyone believed it. Jake looked out the window, toward the stars. Empires, fear began to groan out of weapons. The galaxy whispered Jake Carter's name like a warning. The human who won wars by telling stories. The man who turned real battlefields into imaginary games and still crushed his enemies. But the alien leaders didn't believe the reports. Not all of them. Many said Jake was a one-time mistake, a rare type of human, a fluke. "He's a trickster," the Zarek Prime said to the council. "Nothing more. Earth cannot have more like him." "He changed the Brannock warfront with no weapons," replied a nervous Varnock. "What if he's not the only one?" That question echoed across space, and it reached Earth back on the surface of the blue planet. Someone else was watching Jake's victories on a tablet. A young girl, no older than 16, sat in a quiet room. Her name was Zara Quinn. She wore glasses too big for her face and a hoodie with a cartoon dragon on it. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't even popular in school, but she smiled as Jake's recorded simulation played. "He's good," she whispered, "but he forgot something." Zara tapped the screen and opened her own strategy game. The battlefield looked different, smaller, simpler. But what she did next shocked the Earth defense. Text monitoring public activity. Zara broke the game's AI in 15 minutes without cheats, without upgrades, only patterns, traps, and creative thinking. The system flagged her within hours. Earth defense contacted her. Then the Varnock did. She didn't panic. She just asked, "Do I get to meet the guy who called war a campaign?" "Jake?" Carter leaned back in his chair as the Varnock shuttle landed on the station. He was tired. He'd been teaching strategy classes to alien students for weeks. He missed Earth, missed game night, missed pizza. Saran walked in with a message. "They're sending someone new, another human." Jake sat up. "Wait, seriously? Who?" Saran handed him the file. "Named Zara Quinn. Young, no combat experience. But she already broke 3 of our training sims remotely." Jake whistled. "Now that's interesting." When Zara walked into the command center, the aliens looked confused. She looked too. Normal. Jake smiled. "Hey there. Big fan of your take on Sector Sim 9. That was genius." Zara nodded. "You missed the blind spot on the North Cliff. That's why you needed smoke bombs." Jake blinked. "Okay, you're scary." The Varnock generals whispered again. "How can another human be like him?" "She's younger. Is Earth training them in secret?" "She's not trained," Saran whispered. "She's just playing." The next day, they gave Zara her first test. She stood in front of the giant simulation table. 10 alien observers watched, recording every move. The enemy AI charged straight ahead. Heavy units, aggressive. Zara didn't panic. She opened a music app on her device and played soft jazz through the simulation speakers. The aliens stared. Then she placed lights on one side of the map. "They'll move toward it," she said. "Everyone always moves toward the music." She set up weak units in the shadows. Behind the lights, the enemy forces walked straight into the trap. Game over in 7 minutes. One alien fell back in his chair. What just happened? Jake laughed. She used background music as bait. I love it. Zara looked up. Battlefields are emotional spaces. You just have to give the enemy something to feel. That evening, the Alien Council met again. First, Jake, now Zara, one said, "Is this what Earth is raising?" Another answered, "No, this is what Earth plays with, and we never saw it coming." But not everyone was impressed. The High Warlord of the Drazari, Empiren, old species known for brute strength, heard of Jake and Zara's victories. He was furious. "These humans bring tricks," he growled. "They insult the battlefield with games. I will show them real war." He sent a direct message to the Varnak Council. "Send your best to humans. I challenge them to a true duel. No AI, no illusions, just war." Jake raised an eyebrow as the message played. Zara smirked. "He sounds fun." Jake asked, "You want to do this?" She nodded. "Only if we can keep score." The Drazari chose an asteroid base empty dark and perfect for combat. Their forces arrived, fully armed. Massive soldiers with steel arms and laser cannons. Jake and Zara arrived with only scanners, paint bombs, and one shared bag of snacks. The Drazari laughed. One shouted, "You mock us with children and color powder." Jake threw a paint bomb at the wall. It exploded with bright purple gas. It's not paint, it's panic. They vanished into the smoke. The battle began. Drazari units stormed in. But every corner of the base had strange lights, shifting shadows and whispers through speakers. The enemy began splitting up, chasing fake targets. Jake guided them in circles. Zara lured them with heat signals and sounds of crying children. The Drazari grew nervous, angry, disoriented. Then Zara whispered in her mic. Now, from above, they dropped a net of mirrors, reflecting the Drazari's own movements. They began firing at their own reflections. Chaos. By the end of the hour, the battlefield went silent. Every Drazari unit was down. Not dead, just broken, trapped in confusion. And fear, the Drazari warlord stood alone. Growling, Jake stepped out and asked, "Want to call it?" The warlord raised his weapon. Zara stepped in front. "Don't." He paused. She added, "You've lost, not because we're stronger, but because you came to fight and we came to play." The warlord dropped the weapon behind him, nodded slowly that night. No one laughed at Earth anymore. The galaxy had seen 2 humans now, and they realized something terrifying. If this was Earth's idea of a game, what would happen when they got serious? The stars were quiet. Across dozens of systems, alien generals sat in war rooms filled with silence. Screens once filled with battle data now showed only 2 names, Jake Carter and Zara Quinn. 2 humans, 2 players, and they had defeated every known war simulation, battlefield test, and alien army without using real weapons. Without killing, without fear, the galaxy was no longer laughing at Earth. Now, it was listening. Inside the Varnak Grand Council chamber, the walls hummed with tension. Dozens of alien leaders had arrived. Some came in anger, some came in fear. All came with one question: what do we do about Earth? The Varnak elder stood slowly. "We trained for centuries in tactics. We believed logic and tradition were the highest form of war. But they play," someone interrupted. "They beat us with games, not just games," another added, "with imagination." The room fell silent again. Then a hologram lit up an emergency broadcast. The Drazari Empire, still humiliated after their defeat by Jake and Zara, had made a move. A full fleet of warships was heading toward Earth. No more testing. The Drazari leader snarled in the message, "We end the threat now." Back on Earth, alarms echoed across the sky. The United Defense Command scrambled jets, orbital shields activated. News spread fast. A galactic invasion was coming. But while the world prepared for war, Jake and Zara were playing a board game in a quiet room beneath the Earth Defense Headquarters. "Do we really have time for this?" one officer asked. Zara moved her piece across the board. "We have plenty of time," Jake smirked. "We're not fighting, We're preparing a finale. Outside, the Drazari ships approached orbit. They had more firepower than anything Earth had ever faced. They sent a warning message to humanity. You train children to destroy armies. Now we will destroy your world, Jake replied with only 2 words: game on. The moment the Drazari ships entered Earth's atmosphere, things began to go wrong. The first ship's navigation failed. It followed a beacon that didn't exist and landed in the wrong hemisphere. The second ship saw fake heat signals, dozens of false military bases glowing on radar. The third ship was hit by electromagnetic pulses, but not from weapons. From modified gaming consoles across the planet, all synced together. Zara had spent the last week turning Earth into one giant interactive illusion. They weren't defending with missiles, they were defending with play. The Drazari grew confused. Where were the soldiers? Where was the battle? Instead, they found fake voices in their comms. You've entered level 2. Boss fight begins in 5 minutes. You are not the main character. Inside the Varna command center, watched in awe. Is this a defense system? He asked Earth's officer. The officer replied, no. It's a game night. The Drazari began to lose control. Troops on the ground followed false lights and got stuck in holographic mazes. Some dropped their weapons after walking into areas marked safe zone and hearing soothing music. The entire invasion turned into a disaster without a single real bullet fired. The Drazari leader landed near a forest outside what he thought was Earth's command center. It was actually a trap set by Zara and Jake. They met him there. Calm, casual, you've lost, Jake said. No battle was even fought. The Drazari roared. Zara stepped forward. Exactly. You don't understand honor, he barked. We understand something better, Jake said softly. We understand why you fight, and we chose not to. The Drazari lowered his head. He looked around, his ships broken, his troops lost, his pride shattered by laughter and illusions. You used fun, he whispered. You turned war into a ... story. No, Jake said. You turned it into war. We just rewrote the ending. Back in the galaxy, everything changed. The Varniks suspended all war drills. The Xerox started libraries of human strategy games. Even the Branniquen's proud warriors asked Earth for cooperation. For the first time in thousands of years, peace felt possible. Not because someone forced it, but because someone proved war could be beaten. ... Without war at all, Jake and Zara became something more than heroes. They became legends, but they didn't want fame. They didn't want power. They just wanted one thing to play again. And so, one quiet night, aboard a peaceful space station, they sat at a round table surrounded by aliens from across the stars. They rolled dice, told stories, shared food. What campaign are we running tonight? Saren asked. Jake smiled. One where nobody dies, Zara added, and everyone wins. If they're smart enough. Outside the window, stars glittered like dice. On a dark table, the galaxy was still full of dangers, still full of tension, but something had changed forever. Because now, every time an alien general opened a war manual, they wondered if the better answer was to close it, and open a gamebook instead.